And we live back in the game with brother Ed Latimore. Ed, can you hear me?
I can hear you, man. How are you?
You sound like there's a delay. Have you been punched in the head recently?
Too many times, man. Life is hard. Life is fun. Getting back in the ring, moving around, and
Okay, wait, stop being modest. You said I'm getting back in the ring, moving around. Because most people moving around is, you, the coach, maybe a couple training partners that have, full-time jobs. This is not moving around, Ed. You sparring with Roy Jones Jr. is not moving around. That's getting punched in the head by a professional.
yeah, yeah. So it's really just fortunate circumstance. Well, I mean, circumstance and fortunate, depending on how you want to look at it. So Roy's been my coach has been Roy's coach, and we've had the same coach now for the past decade, maybe. It's been a while. And when the Tyson fight came up, that was just like my coach was like, hey, because I'm not built identically to Tyson, but I'm shorter than the average heavyweight. I'm 6'1". I think Tyson is 5'11". We're both the same weight. Well, he trained me to fight taller guys, which is what the whole peekaboo style uh, is ideal for. So that was ingrained in me over the past decade or so. So it was real easy. My coach was like, "Hey, he called me up. You in shape?" I'm like, "I don't do anything." I mean, like, yeah, like I stay in better shape than the average.
Right.
For and certainly like, but I still had to like get a little in fighting shape, and that was just pretty much for 2 weeks or so. I just ran and went to the gym, hit the bag. But it was but it's easy, like, because once you get in there like that, yes, fighting is exhausting, but a lot of that exhaustion is purely mental. Especially if like you have little basic things down, like your cardio is fine, your balance is good, so you're not readjusting after every throw. And so it's been a really good time. Roy it's just gonna be weird to say, Roy has improved dramatically since he started. He was still whooping
How old is
me.
Roy Jones Jr.?
Roy is 51, I believe.
And for a lot of young cats out there that don't understand, you need to go to YouTube and type in Roy Jones Jr. highlight. That man.
Probably, arguably, one of the best of all time. Well, not arguably, he is one of the best of all times. Probably the best athlete to ever play the sport, or to compete in the sport. Like, for sure, best pure athlete. I mean,
Well,
at 51,
he could have played anything. He could.
yeah.
The way he moves and the way his body responds to physical activity, he could have done anything he wanted to.
Yeah, and he chose boxing with great success, and so it's been a real treat being in there because like let's be real, like if Roy was like my age, that I would not be capable. So he's got to he slowed down a little, but he's still. But it's not like he was doing nothing. I mean, he spent all of his life as a trained athlete. In fact, he fought up until they were talking about this. I listened to the whole Rogan podcast. He was on Joe Rogan. That was the first Joe Rogan podcast I ever listened to in its entirety, and he was saying that um, he'd been his latest fight was 2 years ago. So it's not like he's been inactive. And so he's moving around, still sharp, and it's a great experience for me because it's on two things. One, it's just a cool story to tell. I mean, I like having that. Like I'm very familiar with the world of showing up to the gym, warming up, training, having that purpose. That's really cool, and also it it affirms that if I want to, I can still fight. Like I'm not my reflex is fine, my balance is good, my sharp like everything is I still know what I'm doing in there. Certainly well enough to defend and give Roy the work he needs to get ready for the fight.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah. And you know what's cool about that fight? Like, because you can tell, I talked to different people about it who once they find out, what I'm doing, and people are squarely divided. The people who think Tyson's just going to go in there and blow Roy out, I'm always shocked at that because like how could you think how could you think that, oh, you know how, because you don't really know the sport, you're a lay fan, in other words. um and then the other people who kind of understand what is exactly going on, those are few and far in between. But when they do, they understand it, that, you know, even though it's an exhibition fight, it is no walk in the park for either man. Like they are both very good um at what they do, and have done it at a high level. Roy is, you know, a multi-weight. He actually Roy was heavyweight champion. A lot of people don't know that. And
Well,
so yeah, he beat John Ruiz, took the belt off him. So yeah, he started at junior middle, I think, junior middle, whatever, 54. So yeah, junior middle, and then worked his way up, and had a belt in every weight class.
most men struggle their whole lives to get a belt.
Yeah, but when you win the Olympic,
Getting any belt at all is a simple. You know what? The belt doesn't just mean you were the champion at this period of time. It means you dedicated yourself to something. This is the interesting part. It's kind of like you and I have been in the fighting world for a while. I've done kickboxing, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, things like that. Not even a real kickboxing fight. I've done jiu-jitsu tournaments and won some of those. When I say kickboxing, I went to Thailand and I tried to practice with them, and they were nice enough to let me, because it wasn't even, well, most people, it's like, I'm going to give an analogy that leads directly into what I wanted to chat with you about and why I wanted to talk to you. With fighting, it's the same as watching two grandmasters of chess playing. When you see two pro athletes fighting, it doesn't look that hard because they're so close to the skill level at a black belt level in jiu-jitsu or a boxing championship fight. You're watching two men who are so good that they make it look like they can negate each other. So the average chump on a chair says, I could do that. Or in jiu-jitsu tournaments, they'll say, oh, you know, and by the way, blue belt is a second level. So you go white belt, blue belt. They're like, man, that didn't look hard. I'm like, okay, well, why don't you come to the gym, and after gym, we'll find one of the guys that I train with that's about your weight, and you can try. And I've had some knucklehead friends who've been like,
no kidding.
And they can't understand why they keep getting strangled unconscious every 37 seconds by a blue belt. You know, or boxers, like the average man, fortunately, professional fighting people generally don't interact in a physical combat way with civilians, ever. It's just not a good idea.
Yeah.
When you've seen a chump off the street get hit by a professional boxer, not even a belt holder, just a man who's been boxing for 4 or 5 years, he knows his footwork, he knows where his hips needs to be. It's really scary because most people have, like, the first time I really got hit in Thailand doing kickboxing, like the first time I really that real first time when somebody hits you and then kicks you in the side of your gut, it changes. It's not like somebody on the street who's just brawling. Brawlers can hurt you, but when you have somebody who cracks you and you realize they're about to do it again with no effort, it changes you.
Yeah, it's what's the best way to put this? I watch a lot of well, I don't watch them, but when they come across my feed on social media, there are these fight videos, and I always have the same thought. Thank goodness these people don't know what they're doing, because they could hurt somebody. Because when you look at the average person, how they throw a punch, they have no concept of how to put, like, leverage, strength, balance, any of that behind it. And that's a really good thing, because like if I hit someone unguarded, look, if I hit somebody who's trained with one of my punches, they're gonna at the very least have their balance disrupted or have the wind knocked out of them. If I hit a civilian and they have no idea, then, you know, I'm probably going to be facing a charge, and that is not a thing I ever want to be part of. So, you know, I don't do it. And I think a lot of boxers not only have that in mind about not fighting in the street because of that, but also, like, man, you get a real respect for hurting a person and how easy it is to do that. And it's very easy for me to hurt someone. It's very easy for someone, you know, and once you know that, you scale back like violence. I mean, I'm at the age now, like I should the age and position of my life where I should never never be in a position where I need to throw a blow. And if I am in a position where I need to throw a blow, I probably need to throw it quickly because some firearms are coming up real soon. Like it's not gonna be like there ain't no street confrontations. I'm not in the bar. I've been out the projects for half my life now at this point. Like nothing is gonna happen. But but when I see people go, man, I want to bang one. Nah, man, like you don't get it. you can alter somebody's life fairly easily, and people who ain't trained, they don't get that.
When I talked about the two grandmasters, the reason I wanted to talk to you about that, and let me back up. We talked a little bit about fighting, but tell them exactly why you're uniquely qualified to talk to me about games, specifically chess.
I play a lot of chess. I play a lot of chess. I'm not as good at chess as I was at boxing, but I'm getting better. I spend quite a lot of time studying. I've invested in a coach and I have a real training routine. My rating across the board on the internet right now, because there's no OTB games over the board, is flows between 16 and 17. Little tweaks, I beat guys in the 1800s, but that is let's say that's when I'm playing my strongest, and I want that to be my consistent level. But the point is, I'm definitely stronger than the average person in the street, about as strong as a good club player, but not titled. And that's one of my goals, to be a title player. But it takes so much work. It's just like anything, your year results are logarithmic. It's easy to go from 13 to 1400, and then there's that easy where it's linear, 14 to 15, and then I feel like any improvement between 15 and 16 for sure, it's logarithmic. You got to put a lot of work in. 16 to 17 even more, and then it just keeps getting harder and harder and closer and closer.
Brother BK from the Rockies, thanks for showing up. Are you a chess player as well?
I actually tried my best to teach myself many years ago. Like, for all the young people, there's this thing called encyclopedias from back in the day. I just kind of read about the pieces and the maneuvers to get an idea. And then when I went to college, I had a few chess clubs or whatnot, and I tried to just trying to play to get an understanding of it, because I could see the strategy of it, learning how you can start off with your pawn, moving it 2 spaces up from the beginning, and then trying to get your bishop out to then set up other maneuvers down the road. I thought it was really cool, and there's a lot of multitasking to it. So I always respect somebody who's good at chess. Straight up, it's really awesome.
Now, just to give people some context, Ed, you said you're at what level? What numeric level?
I'm 16 to 17, very clean class, like dead smack in the middle of Class B. That's where I'm at. Occasionally, I can beat some Class A players, but I still have some tightening up to my game, because you learn some every loss, every win if you're studying correctly. And the first place you get a title is National Master NM. You get to put the little letters after your name and everything at 2200. But what people don't understand is it's like the curve of anything. The initial part is exponential, the later part is logarithmic. You will the difference between a 2100 rated player and a 2200 rated player is as big as the difference between an 800 rated player and a 1600 rated player. Like it's that
really
big. Yeah, but because at that point, first of all, once you get to we'll say, when I'm playing strong 1700 consistently, studying, and you run the games through the engine, you don't really make mistakes anymore per se. Obviously you make a mistake because you lose, but you stop blundering the game away. Instead, what happens, there's an old saying, at the lower levels, you lose games. At the upper level, you win them. When you start at 1700 and above is pretty much when people start winning the game from you. They do something, or they're playing a position, or they're playing strategically with insights into the tactical possibilities that open up. They have a plan, and you don't have a better plan. When you're lower rated, when you're lower rated, neither you know what's going on, and pretty much the winner is the one who makes the next to the last mistake.
The next.
I can see that. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying I can definitely see that. I've watched some of the chess masters. I want to say, is it Ashley or Lashley was one of the guys? And
yeah, Maurice Ashley. Yeah, first black grandmaster.
Right. So I saw him playing some of the guys like just street chess, and I was just amazed. Like, wait a minute, he's a professional chess player playing with a guy like probably a homeless guy on like maybe New York, one of the metro areas.
It's great video.
Oh, dude, and the pace at which they were going, I was like, hold on, wait a minute. They already know these maneuvers. As soon as they made that first move, they got an infinitesimal amount of movements that the other person's doing, and like they're literally just going at it. And I'm just like, wow. I'm like, I'm just trying to figure out. Well, I know this one goes up 2 spaces. I can cancel this one. No, they're on a whole nother level. It's just something crazy as you watch it.
What's cool about having my network, man, is I actually, because he follows me, I follow him. I reached out to him. And I was like, man, you got to tell me, like, because one of the cool things about Maurice Ashley's story is that compared to other chess grandmasters, he started late. He didn't start competing until I think he was 16 or 17.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, if you're gonna become a GM, you've already got a title by that time. If not a full, you're an NM or an IM. And he was like, "Oh, I'll start here late." So it's really cool to talk to him and see how that goes. And he was a cool guy.
No, that's like saying you got a PhD by the time you're in high school.
Pretty much, right? Yeah.
I have friends that play chess, and I remember one of my buddies. He was reading this book about. It said something about chess theory, and I said, "Oh, can I see that?" And he said, "Sure." He handed it to me. I had no idea what any of it said, and it was written in English. It was just lines of numbers. Lines of numbers and a letter and a number and a letter and a number and a letter. And I thought he was reading it like a novel, like theory. This is the mindset. He was like, no, okay, here. I was like,
I can see it's probably like sight reading a piece of music.
Right. That is the exact analogy I give people. Mm-hmm. And that when you learn how to play an instrument, you learn how to read music. No one sits there and reads music like that. Like that, you never see somebody sitting in the park just going over some sheet music. No, it's a very purposeful piece of information. You look at it, and unlike language, we look at sheet music, and to a lesser extent, though you can, but no one really does this. We do this with chess notation as well. You look at it, and then there's a physical component. There's a physical move you make that is dictated by that, and then from there you can study it, and that's how you're supposed. I just realized that 2 years ago. Like, that's how I'm supposed to use chess books. I thought I was supposed to like read through it and study, but like if I was in my den right now, you'd see I got a big chessboard set up. I bought a chess table. Great, ordered off of Amazon. It was very easy to assemble, and I have my books where I sit and study, take notes, play with ideas. I have the programs where I go through scenarios, but like I know my opening up to 12 moves and kind of what the main ideas are behind the opening and what I'm trying to accomplish, and how to think about the game in that sense.
Let's pull it back a little bit because I want to use chess as an example, but I also want to talk about a few other things. Now, for me, I love video games. I want to put that on the table. My top 3, Grand Theft Auto. Shout out to Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Elder Scrolls, the video game. A new one coming up is going to be Cyberpunk 2077 that I really want to get. But I'm not. I haven't had a video game console in many years. I got to a point where I had to realize I do love games, but when you realize, okay, everything I do has to be a purpose. I have things that I do with purpose coming in the gym lifting weight. I eat with purpose when I say I don't want to eat that or I do want to eat this. when I talk to a woman, it has a purpose. But when I play games, it's the one thing that you can be good at. And if it's a video game, and I'm going to say something, feel free to give me some pushback. You don't get anything out of it. There's nothing on the back end.
Feel good. That's about it. You beat your high score, feel good about it. You accomplish the goal. It's one of those things. It's just it's not tangible. I mean, unless you're a professional gamer and you got someone sponsoring you, Past that point, no, it's a feel good moment.
Yeah, my general feeling about that is short answer, I agree. Period. Right? There's nothing you get on the back end. The long answer to it, if we're gonna talk about monetary enrichment, we live in such an age now, and this was not even the case 5 years ago. I mean, things just changed really rapidly. Where if you have any type of personality or some tits, right? Like you can get on and play your game, and you ain't even got to be that good. Before you had to be like, I mean, very good. And the difference between good enough to get paid and good enough to be in the conversation to get paid was so great, even though it seems small to us. It's like the chess thing. The difference between the best guy and the next best guy is so great, and the rewards reflected that. But that's no longer the case. You can get on if you got a Twitch following, you can get people to watch. But those people, uh, that's still, I mean, you still okay, right? To do that, it's not really about the game. Then we're dealing with marketing and understanding how to appeal to an audience and build up and build up a searchable persona, right? So yeah, at the end, I still am in the whole. You don't get anything back immediately from video games playing as an adult. I think at that point you are likely losing the game of life, so to speak.
Well, and the other thing about that is, I believe that, let's say I decide to pick up a chessboard tomorrow, and I study 5 days a week, and then Saturday morning I call Ed and we play online together, and then Saturday afternoon I call BK and we play online together, and you can tell me, okay, you did this wrong, you did that wrong. The process through which I'm learning to become a better chess player, even if I never break out of the middle, even if I'm always in the bottom 20%, playing chess with other people, I'm learning how to read another man's actions, nonverbal communication. I'm learning, and I hit the big one, I'm using critical thinking skills.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that, and I'll play. I'm not really playing devil's advocate. I think this is just a useful counterpoint that may sound like that. It's not like you don't get okay. It's not like, not in all video games, but it's not like there aren't some video games where you do get that training. You do get that critical skills training. You do get that teamwork. You do get all of that. And same with chess. I don't want to. I love chess, but I'll be the first to say that if I didn't have a persona to put it with, it would be a severe waste of time. I think Peter Thiel, who's a national master, the founder of PayPal and a few other companies, he talks about how he spent so much. He wished he hadn't spent so much time involved, in chess as a kid, and that he plays at a high level. He's got that title. So I think we have to be careful. And I know a lot of guys who play chess are guilty of this. I try to be aware of it so I don't become guilty of it. We got to be careful about assigning a game that does not have a direct benefit, but direct payoff in reality from assigning that like a superior, ranking it higher than like playing video games. At the end of the day, me sitting there playing my chess is still the same as somebody playing World of Warcraft. Now there are other differences, and we'll get into that makes chess a bit I don't want to say better, but not as destructive as video games can be. So
I agree, and I want to add on to that. I'm now thinking about Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I think one of the games that the Rich Dad had him playing was Monopoly.
Mm-hmm.
So as opposed to not just games in general, certain games, I guess, depend on what it is and what you're using it for, it can help reinforce some things. It can help with your learning of certain aspects. So yeah. I do see that part right there. Depending on what game you're looking at, it can really help. So, I mean, let's go with Vasily Lomachenko. I think he's got the light touch thing to help with his fast twitch reaction. And I've seen one other who was it? It was a UFC guy. I think he's at that lightweight. I can see him right now, but I can't remember his name to save my life. He was also doing it as well. And it looks like a game, but that game actually does help you with your hand-eye coordination in your response time. So I guess we got to look at it. There you go. Got a monopoly.
If anybody hasn't played this game, it is one of the best $5 investments. As a matter of fact, buy 2 packs so you can play a huge table. One box is for 2 to 4 people. The other box is for you play like 4 to 8. Monopoly Deal is a game that you can play. Let's say it's 15 to 30 minutes, but it is one of the best adaptations of the Monopoly board game ever. And it is dirt cheap, and it has become, I think it's one of the only games on Amazon that has something like a perfect 5-star rating because it's really that good. I can't take the time to explain it to you, but it's one of those games that you can pick it up, read the directions, and if you don't want to read the directions, you can go onto a YouTube video, and there are kids explaining it to you. And I have games in my house.
Well, that was one of the beautiful parts of Monopoly. You didn't really. How many people actually read the directions?
Right.
Most people just ran with it, and they can make up stuff and literally just game on. But now you got something where you got it online. Shoot, that changes it up right there. I didn't mean to cut y'all. Sorry about it.
This game is awesome. It is something I've taken with me everywhere, and in different countries I've gone to. One of the interesting things is I've made a lot of friends by saying I'm having game night at my house. Come by and play. And it's a game that even people who are non-native English speakers can play. Then you can get into the other games like Clue or, Uno. Mm. But when I talk about these styles of games, what I believe is that because it does not promote solo play, it forces you to become more social, and it forces you, whether you like it or not, to learn the way other people interact and the way other people think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that is the big benefit. The other thing too, and I think this is probably worth noting, is that in the purest sense of the word, chess is not a game, right?
Here we go. We're about to get deep.
Well, yeah. So when you talk about games, like part of the definition, I don't remember this exactly. It's been a little while since I took a game theory class or probability, but a game has to have an element of chance or uncertainty in that you can't that you have to, you have an element of uncertainty. That's pretty much it. Chess does not have an element of uncertainty in the sense that a computer can work out the optimal path every time. One of the reasons why now computers have made big strides and they're getting really close, but the best human cannot beat the best computer in chess. It can't happen. However, in poker, for example, the best human can still beat the best computer. They can still play. Now it's going to be a tough match because there's an element of uncertainty, an element of chance, an element of bluffing, an element of divergent paths that can be taken that end up to the same point, and there's no way to calculate that and go, okay, you should go this way or that way. It's just it depends on the landscape. So why'd I bring that up? Because
doesn't the human animal create that uncertainty? By definition, once you filter the game through a human, there's an element of uncertainty.
Nope. Because what you're discussing is okay. So yes, when the game is filtered through a human, in we'll go theory, right? In theory, we have introduced non-optimal conditions, which to us look like chance. But if you take two grandmaster play, who are the best play, they're going to make the best moves every time, and filter it through a computer, the computer is going to look and go, I would have done everything. Like that's what's supposed to happen, is that when you filter high-level play to high-level to play, the computer goes, this was right, this was right, this was right, this was right. Oh, this wasn't right. If you had done this, you should have done this and ended up in that position, and had they gone here. In other words, each move has an optimal condition. What is unique about games of chance or games with chance elements is that there's no, it's like poker. What's the optimal bet when you get pocket aces, right? To push at the beginning. However, if the board comes down like freaking 4, 5, 6. Now you've got to think, okay, if somebody's got suited 8 nines, which is not a bad hand to play, now
Right.
your best play is void. There's no way. That's the certainty, and or rather the uncertainty. You made the best in chess. That doesn't happen, right? The move is the best, regardless of what the other person does or what happens, because there's no other elements that can jump in. With poker, the move is the best, assuming that's why we calculate hands on chance. Pocket aces wins, I think 51% of the time or something like that. It might be a little lower or a little higher. I don't remember the charts, but my point is that there's always a randomness to it that is not present in the most optimal moves in chess. And the most optimal move in poker, there's still randomness.
Yeah. Well, with gambling games, there's always a part of just randomness to it. You can't really predict what's going on. But then when you look at like with chess, you got a board with so many motions and movements that can be made. So it's more of a closed system. Because like even with poker, I'm trying to remember with some of the casinos, was it like how many decks is it? It's like 20 of them?
7. Yeah, well, I know blackjack is 7, but if you're talking about where they run through the deck and then shuffle, and because what they're trying to do is increase the degrees of freedom. That's how card counters got away with black, because once again, blackjack still a game because you can't predict the order. But if you were just working with one deck, all it takes is a smart person, and that's what the card counting system came up with. But then they were like, okay, we'll show you. Not only will we use multiple decks in a shoe, we'll shuffle them every time to reduce that element of you being able to track the game.
Wait. How does reshuffling the deck? If you have a 7-deck system, and let's say 20 cards have been removed, and you reshuffle it, how is that going to give you a different randomness?
Okay, so because you're talking about randomness in time, not space. And those are two different things. When you shuffle the deck and I put the deck down, you don't know the order, but the order is fixed in time until I reshuffle it. So all I have to do, this is how card counting works, is okay, every time I see a face card, I add 1 in my mind. Every time I see a non-face card, I -1, right? And so I know what the deck should be adding up to. So if I have a strong negative count, I know to start betting if I get a face card, because what should happen is that the deck is more likely to deal out another face card to give me 20 or 21. All right.
Right. You got one deck and you start chopping down at the bit from face cards versus number cards. You can get a good idea. Like, all right, I'm going to get more. All right, I got rid of a bunch of numbers. I got more face now. I know I can start working with that.
Yeah, but if you reshuffle every time, plus you have many decks, well, the many decks reduces the effectiveness of knowing how many hot cards is left. And on top of that, when you reshuffle each time, you don't know the order anymore. Mm-hmm. And the order makes a big difference, because if you chop off 2, 3, ace, ace, king, jack. All right, so now we know ace, ace, king, jack. There are 4 out. Right, so that leaves how many face cards left? That leaves non-face cards left. Not non plus right. 4, right? Yeah. But if I shuffle it again, I don't know. It's back in. I have no idea what the order is, and now I have
the same number of cards still in the deck.
No, they go back in.
Oh, see, I didn't catch that part. I thought you were dealing the cards, shuffle, pull. You mean after every hand? They're totally.
When I was in California, it was crazy. They have the shoe, which is this. It was a black box that could hold, I think, like 10 decks, and then there you go. It's perfect. You get to the high level video game acumen to most point where you profit off of it isn't even practical to most men. Right? Like the time it would take to be that good is insane, and it's such a marginal level of ability. Yeah, you're better off if you really like games, but that's a different animal. But back to the poker or the card thing. So there's the shoe, and then they're pulling out the shoe. Like, they're not pulling out their hand anymore. That I haven't seen that. I've seen it at the casino in Portugal. They weren't dealing out the hand; they were pulling out the shoe, putting it back in the shoe, pulling out the shoe, back in the shoe, and then it shuffles, and then you pull off each time. So that's how the house maintains its edge, because at the end, because of the way the rules are, the house has like it's the smallest edge in the in all the games, but it's still an edge that they have. They have an edge of like 0.05 or 1% over
Yeah, but
time.
all they need is time. If my edge is 1%, all I need is 365 days in a year, and that 1%. Like, remember, I lived in Las Vegas for 10 years, and I got to see firsthand casinos. I'm not a gambler. Like, I consider the big event, like, say that there was a concert at a casino or a movie theater in a casino, I would take a little $5 and put it in the machine, and if I lost, I was just mad.
Yeah. And not every, gambling, thank goodness, man. Everybody's got a vice. I'm very happy that vice was not mine. Like gambling gives me heart palpitations, man. I can't do it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm kind of like, wait a minute, this should work out this way. Like, crap, I'm losing. After all, I'm like, the hell with it.
Yeah, and then I get
if I've got this bit of money, I can maybe win more, but I can definitely do something else with it.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah,
Exactly, man.
Exactly.
It ain't never. I think maybe that comes from working hard on my life. I don't know. I never looked at. My last experience like with a real bet. I remember exactly. This is how much it stings to do it. I was this would have been 2011 Giants versus San Francisco, and I bet on the Giants. And I remember when fucking Vernon Davis caught that touchdown. It was like a 60-yarder, and it was like 2 minutes left. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna lose my money, and it was only $20.
You don't want to give it the money. You're like, man, that's a tank of gas. That's so much food.
Right,
You start
I can do something.
Brother Alvin King said probability is in one sense a way to quantify chance, the unknown. They went on to expand and say, game theory is predicated on understanding the best response and whether repeated play is a factor too. Chance still exists in chess, even if narrowed down from an AI.
Not correct. The first part is sure. I'll take that definition. Yeah. In fact, yeah, that's fine. Game theory predicated on understanding the best reply/response and whether repeated. But yeah. In other words, the best way to make moves in uncertainty. Okay. Chance does not exist in the sense of chance. This is where people, I think, make a slight misunderstanding. In the strictest sense of, okay, right. In the colloquial sense, yes, chance still exists. I'll say that. In the colloquial, how we use the word chance amongst normal people. When we start talking about probability, now we have a very, very exact definition. And probability is defined as the number the number of total outcomes divided by the desired outcome as the total outcomes tend towards infinity. In other words, right, if you flip a coin, and the best example is you flip a coin 10 times, what do you expect to happen? Well, here's what you don't expect to happen usually with 10 flips, even though this is what should happen. 10 heads, 10 tails. That almost never occurs. What happens is like 7 heads, 3 tails, etc. Right? Edge, and so now you got 70%, towards the heads. But as you flip that, the more times you flip that coin, the closer that ratio should move to what you expect, which is 50-50. Right? By the time you flip that thing 10,000 times, perhaps you have 4,998 heads and 5,002 tails. Right? That's a lot closer than 7 and 3 to 50%. And so when we start talking about that probability, now you go, okay, if I make this move an infinite number of times, will it always end up where it is? And that's when you always it is deterministic. Always, there's no move that you can make. There's nothing will happen. I mean, where you'll move a bishop and all of a sudden it'll end up on the other color. Like every time that move is in the same place and works out the same way. So that's why, like, when you start talking about probability, it's not there.
Not just from a chess perspective, but tell them why you're an authority and why you're able to so succinctly explain these things. Because I want everybody to follow you on Twitter.
Oh, I mean, I actually used to have it in my bio. There's just so much shit I got to take out sometimes. My degree is in physics and math, so that is stuff that we discussed. And the cool thing about my degree is I am not a good mathematician. I mean, like I'm better than like most people, but compared to my classmates, I was by far one of the worst. And what that forced me to do was I had to make sure I really understood things. And so I always strive to come up with the simplest explanation, or at the very least, the explanation that demonstrates the principle in a way that makes it possible for someone to grab it with intuition, right? I don't need you to become an expert on probability, but I need you to understand the probability and what probability is and its implications are over two domains, space and time. And a lot of people forget that for an event to be truly random, it needs to be probabilistic in both space and time, right? And so chess, there is no probability in the movement, right? And in space, either like the knight can't suddenly jump 4 squares or anything like that. So there's a set restrained set of movements, which means by definition, there's no chance in the space element. And time, well, you can only move after I move, and that never changes. Okay, so we've got two fixed things in play. Now we don't have that in poker. We don't have that in Monopoly. We don't have that in a lot of board games. Anything where you roll a dice and you don't know exactly what's coming next. You don't know. It's now it is a game of chance. But all elements of chess are available to be calculated, constructed, or worked out. And it's always been that way, even without computers. If you can create a decision tree for a thing, and that decision tree can be accurate, humans just couldn't work it out because it was forever. But now these computers are incredible. Now,
oh yeah,
Stockfish is the big one people use, and that thing is just a monster. I think it's rated at like 3,200. Which like no human will ever reach, by the way. Like, like the strongest human in history, I think, is Magnus Carlsen. He's like 20. I think he's at 28, maybe. I don't think Magnus crossed. He's like just over 2,800.
yeah. And that was the guy I was going to bring up. I couldn't remember his name. I was like, there was somebody I watched. He beat somebody in like 2 moves.
Yeah, Magnus Carlsen's peak rating is 2,882, and we got computers. The weak ones are ranked 3,000. Like, it's just not gonna happen.
How did he beat somebody in 2 moves?
Literally, like he sat down, shook hands, movement, hit the clock. Guy made another move. He must have messed up or something. And then they said no, maybe not 2, but it was actually very quick. I mean, I swear it was maybe less than 2 minutes, or it was something insanely small. So it may not have been 2 moves, but I'm pretty certain it was well below 10, probably even less than 5. Like he got it done, and I've seen it before where people have put themselves in a bad situation trying to do something. And next thing you know, oh, you left yourself open, and then someone just closed you in. That's it.
Huh.
Yeah, you can find that one up there online. His name is Magnus. It is Magnus Carlsen, because I was like, oh wow, he's the new chess.
Yeah, Magnus Carlsen. And Magnus Carlsen was a grandmaster when he was 13. So just
something like
put
that.
in perspective. So.
Like literally, like PhD level chess in like teenage years.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that we can say that all games have value, but like chess pieces, some values are higher than others.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it depends on how you want to extract that value. I mean, I think video games, for example, I credit my obsession with Final Fantasy for a number of things in my life. One, I had something to do that was not in the street. I wasn't an athletic kid. And thank goodness I wasn't. Otherwise, I'd have probably been on the ball court with a bunch of hoodlums or something like that. And I needed something to do. And video games were that thing to do. Thank goodness they instilled in me a love of story. I'm a big fan of RPGs for that reason. I think video games are the reason why I wanted to write. They also teach you the value of grinding in video game and leveling up. But for that to make sense, you got to be like, all right, you got to go like do stuff in the real world and see the analogy. In other words, like I don't think a lot of people make that realization of real time while they're playing video games. I think it's one of those things in retrospect, you're like, wow, this is just like that time I was in that cave trying to learn more magic. and I leveled up and got magic out of it. So there are benefits to be had, but the problem is they come at such a steep cost. There's just other ways to get them. As we like to say, the value of anything you get from video games almost always exceeds its cost. It's just not. It's not worth it.
Usually, a lot of times, it's the time.
Yeah, it's
like
the time,
grind.
and there's no applicable, there's no crossover to the skills. But it's it's the same way in boxing, man. Like, yo, I spent all that time training and fighting. What do I have from it? There's no hard skill I can port over directly from boxing. There's a bunch of soft skills, but I could have got those in anything. I just happened to get them from boxing.
Hey, thanks to Mike Johnson for pointing this out to us.
I actually did not know this.
Yeah, I didn't know about that one. I just knew the guy was a badass. Period.
And he said the truth
of the game is the matter is the game was over earlier than that.
Oh yeah, he probably drugged that out.
Yeah, after 2 minutes, he got tired of carrying him. He was like, I would have to put on a backpack to carry you anymore.
Wow.
It's so true. I'm in the back of my head, 9 moves in 80 seconds. I'm like, wait a minute, serious, dude? You drugged that out, man. He literally drugged it out.
He said, I'm a big fan of RPGs, but the time grind is insane. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like, and the thing is, games now are designed so they don't have a finite ending. You can literally.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, dude, that stuff. You remember back in those, you're a little older than me, so I remember
when part of the adventure was getting to the end screen and see the credits come up, and you would just be like, "I did it!
Lord,
yeah." Well, here's the thing: you were probably done with video games before the memory card came out, and that was the first time you could save and have an 80, 90-hour adventure, and that was long. Now they don't have the limitations of physical units anymore, so they just send out updates. Just save it on the cloud, just save it on the cloud, whatever, and keep you in. I couldn't touch it now because I'm terrified. Check it out. When I moved into the apartment I live in now, I actually was like, oh yeah, they re-released Final Fantasy VII. Let me go buy a PS3. Got my TV. I'm gonna hook it up and play. Let me tell you something, man. Real life is so fascinating. That PS4 sat there so long, I couldn't take it back. So I had to sell it on Facebook. I drove 20 miles. Somebody who was buying it. I was like, I'm never gonna play this. I'm not I love video games, but I came to rest. I came to terms with the fact that part of my life is over. And because if I sat down, yeah, I'd play it, but what would I get out of it? I'd be like, okay, this is cool. Who am I gonna talk to about this?
You said about that part of your life. You know what? Brother Alton said something. Let me get to that in a second. I'm gonna give you a reference point for me. One of the reasons I want to talk about this is because one of the things that I do, and for those who don't know, I have a Patreon where I talk about things that are a lot less fun. Let me repeat that. Patreon is more technical, less fun. And it's where I talk a lot about hardcore ideas about finance, investing. We're going to get into some life stuff. And a guy that I do some mentoring and coaching for, I had to literally go through this with him, and I asked him, of all the things that you're doing to make yourself better, it's not always adding more. Sometimes it can be what we have to remove. Mm-hmm. And if anybody wants to join me there, I won't go through the self-masturbatory list of reading what each section is. The comment is there. The link is there. Everyone's welcome to join. We have a great community there. But I told him that there are going to be things that you have to give up, because it's kind of like I found out that some of my own cousins were sabotaged into being fat when they were young. I was a fat kid, but I was fat because I enjoyed eating lots of chicken, roast beef, mashed potatoes, vegetables, whatever. And it was easy for me to turn into muscles. But I have other cousins whose reward was fast food when they did something good. My reward wasn't fast food. My reward wasn't the candy bar. But people that become ingrained with that, I did a good day at work today, right? My reward is I'm going to sit on my couch and play video games for 4 hours. And I had to sit with them and I said, it's a greater reward for you to spend that 4 hours. Why not start by reading for 2 hours? I have countless books I can give you. Why not start for 2 hours just going online and taking a massive open online course on something you want to do later in life? All those things are a greater payoff than those video games, because the video games feel great. But at the end of the day, you can't start a discussion when you're in when you're surrounded by, when you become respected by men who are respected, nobody starts a conversation with, I finally beat the final boss.
Right.
Now,
Right.
you say,
Yeah. Now, you
I'm
know
in
what?
the
You bring up a good point. This might also just be age too, as well, because, and I ain't mean to cut you off, but it made me remember another person. Shout out to brother Tony Maceo. He was talking on another platform, someone else's channel. He like, as you get older, certain things it doesn't matter anymore. And so he was like, yeah, you're a guy, you get into your late 30s, get into your 40s, you start looking at your bank account more. And he was like, you got to realize you got more years behind you than ahead of you in some situations. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, because even I was like, probably in my 20s, maybe I can go out somewhere, maybe play this game. I mean, I gave up on video games back around Soul Edge, but then it became Soul Calibur,
Oh
and then
man,
it became every last one on every last platform,
Oh,
and I couldn't afford it because I was still in school. And so then I went to World of Warcraft, and then you got all these upgrade packages. I was like, well, damn, I got a job, but I don't got enough to keep buying all these upgrades. And so after a while, I was like, you know what? I just had to let go. Started going to the gym, working out more, working on the diet. And then as I get older, I'm like, well, I want to get ways to really maximize my retirement, because at some point I want to try and do like Watt and be an early retirement so I can have more time to go really enjoy my life.
Wait, you just gave me an easy layup.
Go for it.
For the people who watch for the first time, there are two things. One, make sure you click the like, share, subscribe, because this is how we get to grow. And this is my LinkedIn account. This is where I talk about who I am professionally. One of my biggest turns has been, I've started an expat relocation services company. It started about 2 years ago. It didn't go public until recently. People who are looking at coming to Brazil, and I have connections in a few other countries, people who want to be in Brazil legally, people who want to expatriate and live a different life, these are the things that my company helps people with. Visas, residency permits, social security number, all those little things that most people on YouTube don't really tell you about. But if you just drop off a plane with any intention on doing more than a little holiday, you're going to need these things. They're not hard to get, but they are a lot of paperwork and time consuming. Thus, my company makes it easier for you.
Hence the reason I harassed you about starting your Patreon.
Yeah. Thank you for that. We have one comment that I don't want to. Let's see. I'm going to say add me on LinkedIn. And I'm going to put my LinkedIn there, and it's in the comments for anybody who wants it. Brother Alton King said, so how do you differentiate between randomness, chance, risk, and luck?
Okay. So first, the easy part. Risk. Risk is the exposure to things that can go like wrong. Pretty much any negative outcome towards what you want, or any negative externality or negative outcome when you are going for a positive outcome. For example, driving a car is a low, and it's a matter of, and it's not just, before I even go on this example, because what I'm going to compare, I gotta specify. If you have a low probability event, that's low risk, or low damage, the higher either one of those go, the more risky it becomes. And there's a combination. You got to multiply the two, right? For example, driving, if you are sober, not texting, looking for, and it's not raining, is a low risk activity, right? But why? Because there's a little chance that you'll get into a problem, because you can see it. And if you do, short of being T-boned out the blind side, you have your seatbelt on, you're going to be able to hit the brakes, you're going to be alert, you're going to be able to reduce the amount of damage that occurs, plus how much damage can occur, especially if you're driving like on a straight line highway. Now, when you start introducing elements of risk, i.e. risky behaviors, like texting and driving, like drinking and driving, like driving while you've been up for 24 hours straight, then you increase the likelihood of something going wrong. If you are flying is so low risk. Here's how low risk flying is. If you divide the number of accidents that result in death, crashes basically, over the number of flights, your calculator is going to return a number so low it's going to effectively be zero. Like flying is effectively no risk. What makes flying riskier? Weather, if your pilot is a crackhead, stuff like that, terrorism, All that makes it more risky, and we've got technology to deal with a lot of crazy risks that could happen. For example, I was flying into Colombia. The plane was about to land. I mean, like we could see the ground, everything, and all of a sudden it just took off and flew away. And it found out is because they had a crosswind measure, and a crosswind gust came, and they said nope, too risky, and took off because the risk is so great. Because the damage is so big, if there's a car crash or a plane crash, that becomes a high risk behavior. So you want to reduce that risk. So risk is taken care of. Chance is just a noun, right? For describing luck, right? Or what are your chances? What are your luck? If you want to be, chance is a noun for the interplay of luck and risk, right? Because when you have a thing and it goes well, right? Actually, scratch that. Chance is a weird one. We're gonna put that off to the side for a minute because everything else got to be kind of defined first. Randomness is things that do not have a cause that you can directly affect, and it's not that rolling the dice is random or the lottery tickets are random. It's just to plot out how those balls are going to come out the machine. You'd have to have so much information and so many complex calculations that it is effectively random. Like no one's going to calculate it. It's not there. There's just a bunch of stuff happening, and we treat it as random. That's why no one, if they ain't said shit about it, and they shouldn't, has figured out how to beat the lottery. Because if they could, it wouldn't be random, right? Same with card games. The card deck is random because we don't know the order those cards fall into, but they come out, and so that's random. Even though the shuffling, technically, you could like look and see where the cards are shuffled and flipped over, or if they were face up, that removes the randomness. But if you don't know and there's an outcome dependent on or your outcome depends on that condition, of being unknown, how the cards are organized and what the cards are, then there's randomness. So randomness are just things that occur that you don't have a direct control over. Luck. Okay, so to describe luck, I got to describe, bad luck, good luck, because luck is just the unintended second order or third order or X order effects beyond the first thing you do. For example, I walk out my door and I get shot in the head, right, by a stray bullet. That's really bad luck. And why is it bad luck? Because I'm walking out and there's no reason for there to be a stray bullet crossing the path. I live in a nice neighborhood. But across the road, somebody decided they were going to go hunting. They were going to shoot a buck, and the rifle comes out, and it was at the right time, a little earlier, a little later. I don't get hit. But here we have a bunch of effects that came together that no one could have predicted. He couldn't predict where I was going to be. I didn't know there was somebody shooting. It happened. Boom. I got hit. That's bad luck. Good luck, on the other hand, is when you don't expect an outcome and it benefits you as opposed to it hurts you. For example, let's go to our lottery. No one expects to win the lottery. And if you do, that's a foolish financial plan. No one expects to win, right? The numbers are against you as well. But if you do win, that's good luck, because even though you took an intentional action, you bought that ticket. No one's expecting to win. Otherwise, people would just buy. They buy a ticket as their plan. They'd be like, "That's my plan. I'm going to try to be lucky." But you can't try to be lucky because the definition of luck is that it's a second order or higher effect. And when I say effect, which is just you do something and then something else happens and something else happens, and each something else that happens is a higher order of effect from the first thing that happened, right? When the second order or higher effects benefit or hurt you, if they benefit is good luck, if they don't benefit you is bad luck. And chance, okay, so when you talk about chance, like what are the chances, that is the way of looking at like things being good. When you talk about odds makers, that's when it's bad. And it's the same thing. If we go like one, let's say you get like a 1 out of 9, 1 in 9 are your chances of winning, but your odds of losing are 8 in 9. That's how we talk about that, right?
I'll a little bit more. I want to not let this part go. He said studies have shown 40% reductions in errors by surgical gains and via gains for certain interventions. Maybe a more salient point. on video gameplay is how an individual benefits or not. On that one, I'm going to have to pull out. Hold on, wait, because here's the thing. Everybody want to keep it clean. So I'm going to say, let's table this until you can, until you can give me a link. I need something that looks at that. Right?
Sure. Not only that, but we're talking about. So I'm always this is what happens when you study fucking physics, man. Is that my first thought when I saw that was 40%. Well, 40% of what? And that we're talking about surgeons, people who train. I mean, quite literally, they're at least a large portion of their life. So they're not making errors on errors on errors. I mean, yes, mistakes happen, but they're not
very
making
specific.
Many errors in the first place. Like a 40% reduction from we'll say 2 errors per year is down to you still is 1 error per year, like 1.2 errors per year if we want to be like exact. But
and then what do we define an error to be at that? Like, did they not suture it up completely?
Yeah. So in other words, when I see that, I have to see the study because of the way I've been trained to think. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Perhaps it is completely accurate, but that is worded, that is not useful information.
Yeah, it kind of made me look. I was like,
and let that and randomly anyone watch it, let that be a valuable lesson why you should study math. And everyone goes like, why we study this shit in school? Right? Math is like the one subject. As funny as it is, math is like the one subject in school right now in compulsory education that if you study it, you'll change. If you really pay attention, you'll change how you see the world. That's why math is so closely related to philosophy, and like all logic is a branch. Our mathematics is a branch of logic, or logic is a branch of mathematics. One or the other, but they're related. And but there's that.
So Richard Lustig is an American who came to prominence for winning relatively large prizes in state-sponsored lottery games from 1993 to 2010. He totaled over 1 million, but here's what a lot of people don't know about this dude.
He bought every possible combination.
And he spent most of his winnings on more lottery.
Yeah.
So that becomes the question: what was his overhead versus what was his actual return?
So right now, it's funny.
He would never say that he was actually in the black.
Right. So and here's a great example of like this is just random to talk. This is random to talk about because I didn't expect to end up here, but here we are talking about it. Just going back to those definitions is So for a lottery to be good, right, and not bankrupt the system that does it, but still entice play, you have to have an expected value that's negative, but it can't be too negative. An expected value is when you look at any event, dice is the easiest way to show this. You have a 1 in 6 chance of winning and a 5 in 6 chance of losing, right? And combined, that's one whole thing. 1 6 plus 5 6 is 1, right? But what do you win when you win? What do you lose when you lose? Well, if you bet $2, you're already $2 up, and you win 2 more when you win, right? So when you win, you go up +2, right? So +2 times 1 over 6, right? So your EV there is was that 1/3, right?
Right.
Now you lose 2 when you lose, right? Because you put that money down, it's gone. So now it's -2 times 5 over 6 is 10 over 6, so 1.4. So you've got a negative expected value. Like that game should make the game winner money. He should, he may go down temporarily, which is why he's got to come in with a little bit of money. Which is why insurance, when they open up, they have to have some money in the bank because there's going to be some claims. But overall, if the math is sound, they should keep making money. Okay, so that's why was I talking about this? I completely forgot why I was talking about this.
Well, I'll tell you how this relates to my former career as a financial professional dealing in insurance and investments. One of the strongest discussions that I would have to have with clients and potential clients, I should say, was the concept of opportunity.
Oh, I remember now. Yeah, the lottery guy.
Opportunity cost it represents the potential benefits an individual, investor, or business misses out on when choosing one alternative over another. The idea of opportunity cost is a major concept in economics. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put this in the comment section for anybody who wants to read the entire article at Investopedia, which is a great place to get a lot of good information.
Yeah.
And I would talk to my people, and I would say, my clients, and I would say, listen, you're telling me that you don't want to give me control over 20% of your income. Fair enough. What are you going to do with it? I don't know.
Nothing. Forget about it. A lot of times that's what we do. Yeah. Going in the market and let it go.
And it's one of those things they would say, well, are you looking at investing it with another person or company? No. Okay. So you do realize that if you don't put this money somewhere, preferably with me, that you're losing money because you're paying taxes on it, and you're losing out on what that money could have done for you.
Yeah.
Your potential.
And it's difficult to explain an ethereal concept like that to somebody who doesn't get that holding money in the mayonnaise jar under your bed, it doesn't help you. It's not doing anything for you. And they try to figure out, well, if I give it to you, I might lose it. Well, if we go pure stock market, yes. But if you don't, you're definitely going to lose it, because the power of that money is going to weaken every year. It's like a radioactive nugget. It gets less and less effective every year. You either have to put more radiating nuggets next to it or put it in a place that's going to save the radiation. And that was such a difficult conversation for me to have, because the concept of not spending it doesn't mean you get to have it. It means you get to do nothing with it, and it's not making you any money.
Then you also add in the other aspect that people are fearful, especially if you've had a few economic downturns. So they're like, well, I just want to have some money just in case maybe I lose my job. Maybe I didn't get that big contract. So now I have a bunch of money that I can immediately grab right then and there on the spot to pay any bills or whatnot if something else bad is coming my way.
And I always tell them, great idea. That's an excellent idea. How about we do this? We build a 6-month nest egg of all your needs, and past that. And what you talk about math, I think we might also be talking about financial literacy, which is a branch of math. Even the most fundamental education in those things changes lives, but still few people get it.
Yeah.
I always blame that on the lack of understanding of algebra, because I thought that was always very much logic itself, where you have multiple parameters, one you know or one you don't know, and then you have to backtrack to figure out the one that you don't know.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm biased, but absolutely. And that whole idea of the opportunity cost, that's a big thing that people don't get about the video games. That 90 hours, for example, is what games were measuring in that the last time I played them. You took 90 hours on something and you got nothing, like nothing to show for it. Like, what could you have done with that 90 hours? You could have changed your life. 90 hours, man. That's an hour a day on a new skill for 3 months.
Yep.
What could it be? What do you want it to be? But people don't get there.
Well, and then also remember, we're all people that go in the gym, so we're like an hour a day for 3 months. I know I can get some gains in the gym with that.
Oh man, dude, didn't even think about that, but yeah. So,
well, here's the thing, Alton, and I want to give him a few seconds. Alton posted some information. But he didn't give us. He posted again. He posted this, but I'm asking you again, very specifically. Can you give me a link, please? Show me where you're getting your information, Brother Alton. Anthony, you can't just say strongly disagree. You got to tell us about what.
Yeah, we don't even know. Hey, right? We don't even know what we're disagreeing about.
Anyway, but you got to give us a very specific.
We've been talking about many things.
Yeah.
I would imagine, and maybe I'll be wrong, but we'll see. I would imagine the disagreement is about video games because that one. What I've learned is that the gaming community is There are two communities that will unexpectedly attack you, and you think you spit some fire. The fucking weed community and the gaming community, man. And like,
you gotta remember, I was in that camp. I know what it's like to have invested a bunch of time in something for somebody to point you and say, you didn't get anything out of that, right? So let's do this then. Anthony said your comments take too much time to arrive. And he said, if I was reading and watching movies for 90 hours, that'd be a loss. Well, first of all, let me take this one, gentlemen. If you were reading any nonfiction books for 90 hours, your life will be better. And I would go to say, yeah, if you're reading anything nonfiction for 90 hours, your life is better. If you were watching 90 hours of documentaries on even the most minuscule subject, your life is better. I will unequivocally say that. Reading a nonfiction book for 90 hours, or many books over 90 hours, or documentaries for 90 hours, you will come out with more wisdom than you had going in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I 100% agree, but people, I have this argument sometimes with people because I like to play the advocate, and I think that's how you make yourself smarter, which is, how is, for example, I always say, how is reading any different than like watching TV, right? And I had to think about this and go,
what?
Well, how is it? Well, yeah. Well, it's fun. It's one of those things we just kind of go, okay, but then I made myself think about it, so I could justify it to myself. And what I came up with was that one of the things that reading does compared to watching television is that it forces a level of engagement that you don't. Like you can put something on in the background and kind of zone it out. You can't really read in the background. Like it requires a trained focus that by virtue of how it's done eliminates a lot of distraction. When you're watching a thing, you put a podcast on, not so much. Okay, so I was like cool with that. But what he's saying is what he's saying is okay, if I put my 90 hours somewhere else, how's that not a loss? Well, you're missing the point, though. When the video game is designed to, and this is why Watt was smart when he said nonfiction or documentary. It was a very smart response because the video game, the fiction, the movie is designed to take you away from reality, so you don't like it is in the purest definition of the word escapism.
Exactly.
Right? And when when it's over, whenever that fiction story is over, whenever that movie is over, whenever that video game is over, you got to come back and sit and deal with the reality that you were not preparing yourself for. And now no one's saying there is no value in these things. There are some great books that are fiction I think people should read, right? It comes on.
The thing is, to believe that all useful information comes from nonfiction doesn't make sense. A lot of times, information from development comes from different sources. Let me be clear.
I agree.
Yeah, it comes from different sources, but
I never said that fiction books had no value. I never said that at all. What I did say is that I can guarantee a return on a nonfiction book, but I cannot guarantee a return on a fiction book. I can tell you, if I go to the nonfiction section of the library and ask about anything, it could be how to make little wooden boats with your hands. It could be the history of Black American struggle. It could be how to purify water. It could be something you don't even like. You'll still gain wisdom from that. But if I took you to the fiction section of the library, who uses libraries anymore? If I took you to the library, you would have a very difficult time because I would have to take each book, look at a few pages, see what level it was written at, because you can take a man who is barely literate and give him a children's level book on nonfiction, he'll still learn. So that's what I'm trying to get at. I'm not telling you that nonfiction is bad. I love fiction books. But one of my personal rules, not self-disclosed, I love comic books. But one of the pillars of manhood that I have, I must read one nonfiction book every month or be in some kind of online class every month before I'm allowed to read comic books.
Right. And this is actually one of the reasons why I started to devote so much time to my studying of chess, which I've said, right, is it the optimal use of my time? I mean, it depends. I mean, I'm like fucking high six-figure earner on the internet, man. You're like, and who still boxes? You got to give me a break at some point, right? But the point is that the use of time, yes, is that we want to put ourselves in a position to where we get something from everything we do. Now, I don't know, Anthony. I'm talking to you. I don't know your position in life or whatever. If you have everything you want, yeah, I mean, yeah, you do however you use your time, is however you use your time. The argument about games and the weed, well, can be. It's certainly not mine, but I can see the argument. If you have all you have, you know, you want to get out of life, and now you're just coasting and chilling, great. My big issue when I talk to guys about this kind of thing is they try to turn necessity into virtue and sour grape it. Like, it's one thing to be, you know, I was talking to a guy yesterday. He goes, "Oh man, you know," he was talking about, once I get this loan, I'm gonna sell my other car so I can get this new one. And I said, "That's how broke people stay broke."
Yeah, just keep
Facebook
it alone.
post, right? Right. so,
Pay it off.
so, but my point was bringing it up to him. I said to him after that, I go, "Okay, uh, you know, just because you don't want to live for money," he said, "I don't live for money." I go, you don't understand. I guarantee you work more hours for less money than I do, because I don't live for money. You have to live for it when you don't work towards a thing. What's this got to do with the video games and all that good stuff? When you have everything you want, then you can go do stuff. But this argument almost never comes from that person,
Hmm.
right? This argument is always this argument usually comes from a guy that, you know. And once again, I don't know. I will be 100% honest. I am generalizing, stereotyping, whatever you want to call it. Uh, that argument usually comes from someone who did, like, this strikes out. Like you throw a rock, right? And like, for example, you said a high value man. A high value man is not going to have this reaction to this because he knows that, right?
Right. And also, a high value person probably doesn't have much free time anyway, as it is. Most
Yeah,
everyone I can think of
yeah.
have very structured lives anyway. So
Well,
even if they're doing reading, it's just to relax or to better themselves.
I think saying video games are useless to high value men are the same as saying books are useless for high value men. You're blaming the source, not the content. Okay, let's do this. Now I feel like Ed. I didn't plan on going down this road.
Mhm.
Since we're here, okay. What you just said is a logical fallacy. It's called false equivalency.
Right.
What you're doing is you're implying that two things are dead equal. Or rather, you're implying that that's what I said. I think I think that saying video games are useless to high value men is the same as saying books are useless to high value men. We just spent 30 minutes explaining why nonfiction books have a net gain that are consistently going to be rated at a greater than zero value, but video games probably won't be. The greatest video game will never be credited to helping a high value man become better. It's something he can do for fun. It's something he can do after all his other high value activities.
Which
but
is
no
the point.
game, no man has ever said, "Let me tell you about the gains I made in the gym, or the economic gains I've run through becoming my own company, or the gains I've made in my profession, and I have this video game to thank for it." Yet men around the world in every language and culture can name those 3 or 4 books that help get them where they are.
Yeah, and it's a very and you know, if the counter argument was perhaps YouTube videos, you know, I think there's a stronger case, but this right now, as it's presented, is not an argument, because like I feel like what has happened is that this is someone we spoke about video games, and they have a video game hobby. And it may be more than a hobby, and they are not where they want to be. Otherwise, because I know guys that exactly what you said, you know, or what I said. That's their hobby. You know, I like playing chess. These motherfuckers like playing Call of Duty. But everything is handled, right? and the reaction is not the same as someone who, when everything is not handled,
Shout out to Men Need Knowledge. Listen,
but that's neither here nor there. I don't want to distract.
Imogen, if he said most special forces are using gaming, YouTube itself is a video game. YouTube is not
a video game.
And
when they use video games. But when they use video games, yes, like most pilots use gaming in the sense that like you.
In that sense, it's only just developing hand-eye coordination. The
drone simulator is not, but I understand, Ed, because now we're getting into those. I'm not. Here's the thing. I understand. We're getting into areas where.
We're kind of blurring lines now. We're blurring like a simulator of a video game. So something for development.
They're taking the colloquial definition, the one we knew we were using, which is the consoles you buy, console gaming for everyone. And we're not talking about simulators. YouTube's not a video game, but like it's just not. That's not what a game is.
Hold on, wait. We got it. Okay, I'm gonna do two quick things. One, I'm gonna show you a comment. Anthony Giuliani said, "Why are you guys judging me?" I can't speak for these two guys, but I am judging you because you made a public comment on a public forum where we talk about things in a critical manner.
Right.
Well, I didn't think we were judging. I thought we were just having a discussion.
I am saying you made a case that doesn't stand scrutiny.
Oh, and then now, and if he's talking to me, I think I made a statement that could be perceived as judgment, but that is, I'm not gonna walk back on that. That's just.
Imogen said, Grand Theft Auto geopolitics,
and that there comes a certain point. I don't know how you handle it. Or you ever see that? You ever see that meme with Mark Cuban on the Shark Tank, and he goes, "For that reason, I'm out." Like at this point, if that's the argument that's being made, I am done engaging with that argument. I'm out.
At that point,
All right, I want to thank everybody. Dear brother BK from the Rockies for showing up. I want to thank brother Ed Latimore. I want to thank everybody in the comment section. I appreciate
everybody, especially you, Anthony. I don't want you to think I was cutting up on you. That was not the purpose of my responses. So, or judging you. That wasn't close.
No ill will at all, but it's just a great discussion.
Let's do this. Hold on. Imogen said, "Games have the best geography in real time." Grown man. I don't know what to do with that.
What do you mean?
How is any application not a video game? Let's ask PlayStation.
Is it this person's first language can't be English? Like that. That's what I've learned to believe because like these trends.
How about this? Wait. I know Imogen. Let's table the rest of the other side of this discussion. If he would like to pop on with us, we can do this again next week. If Anthony wants to pop on with us, we can do this again next week.
Yeah, all respectful combo. I'm all on for that. Yeah.
All right. Well, BK, what do you want to sign off with?
Like, share, subscribe. Make sure to follow all of our gentlemen here on the panel, except for me, because I'm just happy to be here and have a good conversation with guys like myself.
And Ed?
Oh yeah, a good time. I almost never have these type of interviews, shows, talks, whatever, where there's people jumping in and I can say things. At the end of the day, here's what I'll sign off with. I know this might be a little long-winded. I posted something on Facebook and I realized that I've arrived at a point in my life where I can be like I'll never go out of my way to be an asshole, but I don't have to be apologetic whatsoever. Like the results of my life stand on their own individually. Are Googleable. So I hold my opinion. Now, with that said, one of the things I'm well known for, I think, is if you present a great argument, I change my mind because I'm always trying to get smarter. Like at the end of the day. So any great arguments you present, I'm gonna poke holes in your argument, but if it stands, I mean, I'll learn from it.
So this is what I'm gonna say. Like, share, subscribe, and comment. And Med Need Knowledge, he said, "Yo, brothers, come and move to Jamaica. You're welcome anytime." We might just take you up on that. So
Very good.
wash your hands, wear your masks. We're gonna stick around after the gates come down to have a quick chat.